Hello and welcome to the 16th episode of the Boar Hat Tavern Podcast, a podcast all about Seven Deadly Sins Grand Cross. I'm your host, Daz. I'm joined today, as always, by the co-host of the podcast, Sandyy and Novage. So today, we are going to be talking about the ReZero collab banner. We've got 4 shiny new units. Some are great, some are not so great. We're going to give you our opinions on them. And then we're just going to cap the show off with some ReZero themed trivia. Surprise, Novage. I don't think I told you about that yet. But that should be fun. It's going to be light, not really spoilery. If you've watched one episode or played through a little bit of the game, you'll probably know most of the answers. So don't worry about spoilers, anybody. But anyone who's listening or watching may realize we're actually not doing the show at the usual time. We usually do it on Monday nights around maintenance, but we ended up pushing it to Tuesday, for me at least, mid-afternoon. Sandy, why do we have to push things forward a day? Because this isn't usually what we do, is it?
No, that's my fault. So as you guys know, I work at a theme park. So we are trying now to get to the finish line and open up. So, working 7 days a week, 10-hour plus days, and it got quite a bit overwhelming. So I was like, hey, Daz, can we do it, tomorrow? That way we can have a chance to play with the characters, maybe pull on them and, flexible. Hopefully, let us know, guys, if you like it better on this time. We're always open for suggestions.
And early is great for me because Sandyy and Novage are on the west coast of the States and I'm on I'm on Eastern Standard Time up here in Canada. So whenever we do like a late night show, it gets really late for me. So I'm kind of liking this time. I haven't even had dinner yet. Usually I've had the kids to bed. My wife's even asleep before I start. So this is completely different for me. So yeah, like Sandy says, if you like this timing, let us know. And it also gives us a chance to like check out the patch notes to like play with the new characters if new characters come out. So maybe this is just a more ideal time to be like anyways. So who knows? I guess we'll figure it out. So Novage, my son was watching our last show, and he loves the game segments that we do at the end, so he just like skips to those sometimes. And the sound one, the who sound it is anyways, we've got to guess the sound clip and which character it was from. That's his favorite, and he went up against you guys. He had a little score sheet, and he was like keeping track, and he smoked you guys. He actually aced the whole thing, skill names and all. I couldn't believe it. That kid is crazy, and he actually, I think he wants to like challenge you guys. I don't know if he's going to actually come on the show if we'll let him, but I think he does want to like try and take you guys on. But I thought it was kind of interesting watching him go at it. So you got beat by a 10-year-old, bud.
Yeah, I say that it would be fun to have him on as a guest, even if he just calls in, just to be the third player, and definitely probably I'll do a little bit of research before that game to make sure that I put up a good challenge.
It won't matter. He even got Gloxinia's ultimate name, which is Spirit Spiral Bascius, first form Bascius. He got the whole thing. I was like, what? Like, I wasn't even expecting I definitely wasn't expecting you guys to get it, but I wasn't really expecting anyone to know the name of that one. But he just, ripped off in 2 seconds flat. So anyways, that was pretty impressive. It was his finest hour. He made Papa proud, I guess. But enough about that. Let's get into the show because we got a lot of characters to kind of go over. So yeah, the ReZero banner. It dropped late last night. I'm sure Sandyy and Novage have done their summons. I've done some summoning too. I've been really looking forward to this banner. If you've been watching the show for a while, you probably know that. And so what we'll do is we'll just go over each character, do what we usually do, go over their skills, tell you guys our thoughts on them. And in the end, we'll talk about how we might use them in PvP or how we foresee using them in PvP or uses for the characters, and wrap it up with a little should we pull. But starting with the first character is the free unit, because everyone gets a copy of Ram, hopefully in a few days, once you complete all your quests or whatever required for the new event. Ram, and this is going to be super confusing because Ram and Ram have similar names, is the red-haired one. She's the green type unit. And Sandy, do you want to tell us about what she does?
Yeah, so Ram, I really liked her when I watched the anime. So let's go through her skills. Her first skill is called it's Fula, right? And for those of you who are diehards for ReZero, it's her most commonly used skill in the anime too, which uses wind magic and it slices through anything, right? And this skill here inflicts damage on one enemy equal to on the rank 1, 200, rank 2, 200, rank 3 is 250 of attack, and then stuns for on the rank 1 is almost exactly like the Goddess Liz card. It doesn't stun on the rank 1. It stuns for 1 turn on the rank 2 and 2 turns on the rank 3. So yeah, just very, very similar to the Goddess Liz stun card. Very useful skill to have. And her second skill, I find it hilarious Netmarble named it this. You should eat it. And this card is a rupture damage card. It's an AoE card, which attacks all the enemies equal to, again, 100, 150, 250% of attack. Think of it, Ladicio Rupture card. So very similar, kind of copycat onto the other one, but making it more ReZero friendly. And then her ultimate here says, don't stand in Ram's way, right? And that inflicts damage. It's an AoE ult that does 300 to 450% on all enemies. And on top of that, not only decreases attack-related stats by 30% for 3 turns. If you use her in PvP, not a lot of people are bringing healers that can cleanse that off. It's a big, like a huge Estarossa. It's just a debuff. But what makes her really, really useful as just a support unit is her passive called Amazing Elder Sister. And that increases unknown allies' basic stats by 20%. So this is just so useful. There's a lot of unknown units in the game that you can pair her up with, not only with the ReZero collab characters, but, we've got the Gother, we've got the baby Merlins, the Merlins, and a lot more unknown units. And she definitely, I think, if you want to do well on the next season 4 guild boss, she's a person to have on the field. Thoughts for me? She's an amazing backline unit. Makes Merlin hit harder, like she needs it, right, Daz?
Yeah, no, she's crazy. I think she really has, pun intended, I guess, amplified Merlin quite a bit in her uses. Like Merlin's already a strong character, and then can you imagine giving her an extra 20% attack? It's just like a free buff just for her being there, right? She doesn't need to play a card or anything like a lot of other characters do. It's only attack stats. Oh, sorry, it's attack, HP, and defense. It's only basic stats, not like attack related. So she doesn't get an extra crit chance or anything, which would be insane. But still, like that's nuts. And one of the problems that I guess Merlin had coming out is that you couldn't use Green Gother with Merlin because they're the same race, and Green Gother's passive can only work if you have 3 different races. So I felt like this is probably Netmarble's way of being like, okay, like we need to give Merlin some sort of Go3 type buff, and this is it, right? And it works in the back, which is phenomenal, being able to have something in the back. But I don't know, I feel like she could also be a good frontline too, potentially, unlike your Death Pierces of the world who pop out and you're like, oh, you got Death Pierce in the back, this one's over, right? Like usually, like that's what I think whenever I see Death Pierce pop up. But now if you kill a unit and then Ram pops out, it's not necessarily over because she does have a kind of a cool kit, eh, Novage?
Yes, you're right. I laugh at your comment about Death Pierce. When you see him pop up, you're like, okay, he's not a threat. If she pops out, I do feel that, with the stun and some of the other stuff that she has in her skills that, they could sway the battle if you play it wrong. But definitely it's, down the road, as more units come out in the game, and if they're unknown, it leaves her a place in future teams or in future content in utilizing her passive as a if you play it right. I know in Guild Wars, we mention it almost all the time. That type of content. There's the buff where all the same race will have an extra buff if you have that magic base if you're set to that magic base. And so, I mean, if you have an all unknown team, you have all the same race, so it's almost like a double buff. And if you're the defense team, you already have an advantage because you could set sub units. So, you know, if you're the attacking team, you're probably going to have some trouble with a really beefed up unknown team. So that's, you know, just different ways to utilize her. I definitely see that there's usefulness in there, and glad we get her for free.
Yeah, and I think that's the coolest thing is that Netmarble's giving you this character for free. Because honestly, if she wasn't the free unit, I think I'd recommend more people, you know, especially even the free to play people probably should pull on until you got one copy of her, because she probably is the most future proofed unit in that, like, in gacha games, and I'm sure most of our listeners and Sandyy and Novage, you've played a bunch too, like the DPS units, they get power crept, right? There's a reason we don't see as many green Escanors as we used to, right? Because the one comes out and you got Sariel and you got Baby Merlin, and who knows who's going to come out in the future and make those guys obsolete. But it's harder to obsolete units that have interesting kits and utility and 20% basic stats to all unknown teams. Like, this could be useful a year or two down the road, right? As long as they don't come out with a unit that boosts higher percentage of it, right? So Ram really is what I'd call a future-proof unit, and a must-have, but it's great because we all get her, so you don't have to worry about that side of things too much. And Netmarble did the similar thing with Hopper, which was cool too. So as much heat as we like to give Netmarble, sometimes you do have to give them kudos, and I think they're giving the most useful unit, not necessarily the coolest one at the time, but the most useful future unit for free on these recent collabs, which is pretty cool. Okay, so our next character, Rem. So again, this is not Ram, this is Rem. She's the blue-haired unit. She's red type. Why they didn't make the typing match their hair color, I don't know, but she's a red type unit with blue hair, and her name is Rem. So we'll just call her the blue-haired maid, I guess. At least that's how I'll try and remember her. I'll go over her kit. Her first skill is called Crushing Hit. It's an Amplify card, which is exactly the same as Red Escanor's card. She inflicts Amplify damage. It's 180, 270, 450% are the attack modifiers against one enemy. And Amplify, for those of you who don't remember, you get 30% bonus damage per buff on the hero. Second skill is called Boisterous Dance of Oni. And this is, it inflicts damage equal to 130, 195, and 325% of attack on all enemies. It reduces the alt damage of those characters by 20, 30, or 50%, depending on your card rank, for 1 to 2 turns. Again, it's 2 turns on the gold, 1 turn on the other 2. And then the silver and gold cards, they all actually also restrict ultimate move effects, which is something that you should make a note of, because you can stop a Goddess Liz's ult from healing. You can stop an Assault Meliodas' ult from self-buffing himself. Any of that like blue tech stuff disappears, right? So that's super cool. You can like totally negate a bunch of ults. People talk about ult control all the time. Well, this is ult control because you're reining it in, right? Suddenly, like your Lost Fame Meliodas with no secret technique and like 20, 30, 50% less damage, he's going to tickle a little bit, right? So Rem, I think will definitely be useful from a utility standpoint for that. And then her ultimate is called Night Parade of the Blue Oni. And if you haven't watched it yet, turn ultimate moves on and watch this one, because the animation is super cool in this. It inflicts shatter damage, which is the exact same as Blue Skinny King's ults, from 420 to 630% of attack, and is not as strong as Blue King or the King's attacks, because Blue King gets a combined attack, right? So if you have a combined attack with Blue King, like if you put your small Deanne's in the associate slot, Blue King actually hits harder because he gets that bonus modifier. Rem doesn't. So it's like the unassociated version. It's still strong though, because ignoring resistance on an AoE is actually a pretty strong move. And then her passive, which works really cool and really well with her kit, and it's what really enables her to hit hard, is called Survivor of the Oni Clan. So when the hero uses skills or moves skills to rank up a skill and gain ultimate move gauge orb. So basically, if you do anything to like get your ultimate move gauge orb up, it increases your attack related stats. Oh, except for I think moving. Move skills, rank up skill. Yeah, so I don't think moving a skill, unless it merges, will actually do it. Increases attack-related stats by 5%. I could be wrong, though, so don't call me on that. Attack-related stats by 5% for 3 turns up to 5 times. If there are 5 or more ultimate move gauge orbs, you also recover 30% of your max HP. So she can get up to 5 buffs on herself just for like doing things you'd probably be doing anyways, merging cards, playing cards, all sorts of that kind of thing, which is great because she's got that amplify card, right? So it's an Escanor that doesn't need an Arthur. I mean, you could toss Arthur in there too and make her like really crazy, but she doesn't need it. She's a self-sufficient amplify character, which is sorely needed. And not to mention her typing is red. So one of the coolest things is she counters those really, really annoying Assault Meliodases. I already mentioned before, her one skill that decreases ultimate damage can also get rid of him using his self buffs when he uses his ultimate, because it can restrict the blue text on there. And that's an AoE card, so it goes through taunt. So you don't have to worry about getting rid of that droll first. You just throw it up there and be like, hey, go ahead. Ult me, I dare you, right? And there you go. And not to mention her Amplify card wrecks face against Assault Meliodas too, which is exactly what you need to do. If you want to remove him, you got to have that hard-hitting single target card, which is what she does. A lot of people, I think, are pushing Rem as potentially one of the best damage dealers on this collab, and I think it's with a good reason. Novage, you on board with this? You going for Rem? You like her?
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm almost done with season 1 of ReZero. So I reading or seeing these skills, I feel like they kind of did keep close to the character. And it's not, obviously no spoiler alerts for people that haven't watched the anime, but I mean, what she does in her skills is pretty close to almost how she is in the anime. So it's kind of cool that they actually did try to, I guess, keep them similar. But definitely, I think she's one of the favorite. It's very hard because all these characters have some very unique either skill or passive that you just want them, in a sense. But definitely, I hope to get a few dupes of her.
How about you, Sandy? Do you like Rem?
I like Rem, and I do hate Assault Meliodas. And I think for people who might use him, in PvP, they're gonna have to make a decision whether to use that Droll commandment or that Zeldris commandment, which is going to at least counter her passive because she won't be getting an orb if she combines or moves or merges those cards. So it kind of forces them to use a skill. Don't know yet. I have pulled on the banner. I've had no luck so far, but I'm not going to stop until I get, copies of her and Emilia or one of each.
Yeah, no, I mean, Rem seems like a really fun character. I think someone in our Discord today was mentioning, like, with a few buffs on, she hits like a T1, with the 1. Like, that's kind of level of damage she's outputting, and her stacks give her attack related stats, so that also boosts her crit damage. So when we like to talk about gearing now, that someone called us out on it a few weeks ago. So gearing for her, like, if you put crit damage set on her, she's a really good candidate for that because she does have somewhat reliable crits. But also, like, you can probably, I think most people are probably going to go attack crit on her, but you can go attack defense or HP crit. It's kind of up to you depending on how much CC you want to squeeze out of there. I know, like, anyone in like top 100 PvP is probably going HP crit route, just because they need every last drop of CC they can get. But yeah, like, she hits hard, and hitting hard characters are fun, and that definitely describes Rem. Plus, she's got a huge wrecking ball. Like, how cool is that? It's just such a funny thing to see, like, the tiny maid. I don't know where she pulls out of, but she's hiding it somewhere on her person. She starts whipping it around. Yeah, I guess it's a magical pocket. I don't know. And I think she's going to be useful in PvP too. Like, we're already seeing her pop up in a lot of different comps. She's probably the more, like, I'm going to say free to play. You always got to be careful when you use that term, right, Sandy? Free to play friendly, because you do have to potentially get her cosmetics and stuff if you really want to use her. And unfortunately, in collab banners, cosmetics cost you money. But if you don't, like the next character we're talking about is if you want to get her to do damage, you got to get her really high alt level. I mean, Rem's alt is a pretty useful one, but most of her damage output is just through her cards, kind of like a T1 or something. Like, yeah, their alts are great, but you don't rely on them like other characters. So you can get one copy of her and I think make do just fine. Yeah, in PvP, she's a little susceptible too, is the other problem, is that she's a red unit. So the one, it's probably going to shatter her like a piece of glass. So, but it does look like we're starting to shift away a little bit from seeing as many T1s in the meta. We're probably going to see a lot more of these ReZero comps down the road. We're going to see a lot more of these Chandler, Taunty, Toxic comps and everything too. So I think as T1 falls by the wayside, Rem might have an opportunity to creep in, especially against the Merlins of the world. All right, next character on the list is Emilia. This is the one that I've been waiting for a while. I'm really excited for Emilia, and I'm hoping that I can get her to a high alt level because really she needs it to be useful, and you'll see why in a minute. Her first skill is called Puck Please. Puck is the name of a cute little kitty that sits on her shoulder. But yeah, Puck Please. She freezes one enemy for 1 turn on her bronze and silver, 2 turns on her gold. The bronze card does no damage, so it will like freeze through shields and everything, which is awesome. The silver and gold ones do 220 to 360 attack modifiers. And the other neat thing too is it's very similar to the freeze Jericho. The silver and gold freezes, if they're removed by anything other than a cleanse, the unit will take some extra damage, 20% of the remaining HP on silver and 40% of the remaining HP on gold, which is, again, pretty cool too. It chunks it down quite a bit. It's not maximum HP, it's remaining HP, so it doesn't it's not going to kill anybody, but it can chunk them down pretty significantly. Her second skill is called Alhuma, I think. I don't know like the pronunciation on that one, but either way, the way it does is it inflicts damage equal to 120 up to 180% of attack on all enemies and depletes ultimate move gauge orbs, 1 orb for bronze, 2 orbs for silver, 2 orbs for gold at the end of the enemy's next turn. And it's for 1 turn on bronze, 1 turn on silver, and 2 turns on gold. If you think this sounds familiar, it's because it should, because it's Green Gother's Pumpkin Bombs card. So we all know how useful that is, and it's useful for her as well. So a freeze, alt control. And if that's not enough, her ultimate is Bonanza. Bonanza? I think I meant to say bananas. Her ultimate is bananas. It's called Bond with the Great Spirit, and it's essentially Lost Vein Meliodas' ultimate. It's secret technique, so the more cards you have in your hand, the harder it hits. And the ultimate, but the thing is, it's just like Lost Veins, that it scales with all, like how many dupes you fed into her, for both the secret technique as well as for the damage modifier. So you need to get the damage modifier up by feeding dupes, but you also have to get that secret technique modifier up by feeding dupes. So it almost like exponentially gets harder hitting the higher the ultimate level. So getting her 6/6 is kind of important if you want to expect a lot of output damage. And just like Lost Vein, it doesn't matter what kind of attribute the other characters are, you get attribute advantage against everybody. So you're hitting hard no matter what. Yeah, so that's nuts. She's got the control with the freeze and the alt control and Lost Meliodas' ult. This is one of the reasons that she's considered to be potentially one of the toxic and most broken units in the game. Her passive just makes it even funnier too, because when she gets attacked 2 or more times by the same enemy on a turn, that she removes all debuffs from your team. Assault Meliodas is Beware. And then she freezes that enemy for 2 turns. I can't wait to take her into PvP and have an Assault Meliodas attack me twice. He loses all of his buffs, gets frozen for 2 turns, and all of the defense breaks on me. Go away. Like it's such a fantastic little thing that, it's not impossible to play around. You just got to kind of remember to when you're playing against Emilia's, and I'm sure people are going to brain fart all the time and accidentally attack her twice. So, thoughts on the character? Amazing. If you want to pull hard, you want to get a cool character, she's the one, but it's going to cost you. If you do the math, you're probably doing at least like 3 rotations and you have to get some luck along the way if you want to get her to 6/6. So keep that in mind. She's definitely the whale unit on the banner. You need to get a lot of those dupes in her. But you know what? Even if you don't, she's still kind of a cool control unit. You just don't get that extra oomph that the whales are going to get. You also, there's the cosmetics you got to pay cash for. Always heartbreaks a little bit knowing that you need that to get the most you can out of her. But her general strategy is you just delay, freeze, pumpkin bomb, freeze until you get to your ult, and then boom goes the dynamite and everybody's dead, right? She's the ultimate kind of control stall unit. And that's the technique that people generally use with her. Yeah, I don't know. Like, Sandy, sounds like you're kind of soft pulling on this banner. Like, what are you gonna do if you just get a 1/6 Emilia? Are you gonna try using her in PvP or just kind of keep her in your collection? Like, I'm kind of curious what the plan is for anyone who's just looking to keep her, or just pulling to get her, not pulling to 6/6 her.
Yeah, so I've been away from the game for a bit, but I am soft pulling in the beginning, but I think the banner is going to be here for some time. So I might wait for payday and then pull hard on it because I know we're going to need her 6/6 for the new guild boss. So I'm pulling soft now, but yeah, when it comes down to 4 days left of the banner, it's going to be credit card swipe.
I've got a very inappropriate joke. So it's soft now, but you're gonna pop a little Viagra and make it hard later, right? So I don't. That's the least family friendly the show is ever gonna get, and I hope that one goes over well with everybody. But tell me in the comments if it didn't. I don't know. But what's your plan with Emilia here? Or your thoughts on her? You be popping Viagra?
Sandy did make a good point about the new guild boss that hasn't been released yet for us. I've seen a lot of JP videos that they use her, and like most of the time they're using her 6 out of 6. So I mean, for those lucky few that get her that far, I think it's going to be definitely a good advantage for them. Until there's so many different different comps for that new guild boss. I wouldn't say Emilia is like it. You're probably looking at a couple 100-point difference. You're not like extremely off by 1,000 points and feeling left out. But it'd be nice to get her 6/6. I do plan to use all my gems that I've been saving up for this banner. I haven't pulled yet because I kind of have just this thing that I kind of waited out until I feel the right time for it. But I am hoping to get a few copies of her since her dupes are more important than the other units for her ult.
You bring up a good point with the new guild boss too. I think the guild boss, which is presumably the one we're going to get after Akumu, is going to catch a lot of people with pardon the pun with their pants down, because you don't just run dairy into this boss like a lot of the other ones, and it's not necessarily the most common units that are going to be the strong ones. Like you're looking at. Typically, like you said, you were looking at JP, so you know that you've got either giant teams generally or an unknown team with these collab units to score really high. And those giant teams typically have Matrona, I think Green Droll, and Giant Deanne. And you can kind of pick your flavor there. Usually it's Wedding Deanne or Blue Giant Deanne, but not a lot of people have, well, especially not Wedding Deanne 6/6. I don't even have Wedding Deanne, but Blue Giant Deanne too, unless you used her early in the game. Like you probably have been buying those coin shop dupes, and she's not the kind of unit that's on a lot of banners because she's a coin shop unit. So I think a lot of people are going to be finding, this new boss coming around and be like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do here? So it gives an opportunity for people that are prepared to be really well prepared and do really well, and the guilds that are well prepared to do really well. But I think it might be interesting, to say the least, to see how the new guild boss goes, and that's definitely Sandy's avenue. So I can see why you want to pull as hard as you can on Emilia. So just some more thoughts on her. I don't know what gear you use for guild boss for Emilia, if you're using her in that, if you need an attack set or not. But I think generally in terms of gearing, HP def seems to be the way to go. I could see the argument maybe for attack defense, but to be honest, you want her to survive to the ultimate, and that ultimate's going to hit hard even on HP defense if you have her high alt level. Maybe if you're lower alt level, maybe you have to kind of go the attack defense route to squeeze every little extra bit you can out of it. But she is a support unit heart. She just has the unique caveat that she can also wreck face with her ultimate. So I'd say that's probably the best gear set for her, and that's generally common consensus. All right. We'll talk about some PvP comps and stuff after we talk about the next unit. The self-coined mic of the banner, well, not self-coined, Novage said that. She's the mic of this banner, and it's Beatrice. Do you want to tell us why you're comparing Beatrice to Mike? I'm sure she doesn't like that comparison.
Yeah. So she is a blue unit. Her first skill is called Mana Collection. On the gold, it does 400 attack to one enemy, and it life steals 100%. And the bronze card of that is a 180 with a 40% life steal. The second skill is I wonder if I should let you know. It does despair damage, and on a gold, it does 325% on all enemies. And it recovers 30% of your diminished HP if you crit. So it's a lot of hoping that you crit, because you'll see later on how dependent her lifesteal is for the rest of her team, or the rest of the other people on the field with her. Her ultimate is Expert of Yin Magic. It can do up to 525 attack on all enemies if you're 6'6". And it life steals 30% of that damage. So if you kind of see a pattern here, she's basically all her, from her alt to her first skill do life steal. The second skill does a possible life steal if you do a crit on that attack. It's all because her passive is called Caretaker of the Forbidden Library. So the first part of it is she gets an HP related stats increased by 5% for every unknown race in the battlefield. So if you're pairing her with Ram, who has already 20% to all unknowns, so she also gets a buff for every unknown on the field of 5%. And the second part of her passive, she recovers the HP of unknown race allies that are on the field by 60% of the amount that she recovers from using a skill. So a little complicated there. So jumping back to all her skills. So she has to successfully life steal with one of her skills, and 60% of that damage, the amount is recovered to the rest of her team. So, thoughts, you could definitely boost her life steal with cosmetics or even life steal gear. And in a sense, it's a very different unit because it's so heavily dependent on life stealing. She's obviously a support unit, and she has to attack to boost or to heal the rest of her team. So, in a sense, it's a little more strategic healer in a sense. In most cases, you could just put a healer and you can do away with, you're going to have a healer that possibly removes debuffs and heals, like, Blue King, which in some cases may be a little bit more better in certain situations. But in this one, I feel like you have to kind of use her cards and, for her second skill, hope that it crits. So it does some life stealing. So what are your thoughts, Daz, on Beatrice?
I can see why she's the mic. I think she's a tough unit to get to work reliably. I think that's the biggest problem with her. You're kind of touching it already. Like, you need to do damage to get lifesteal, and you need to do a significant amount of damage to get appreciable lifesteal. She does have not too bad lifesteal. It's 15% base. That's with her cosmetics. It can go up to 15 to 20% higher depending on how many unknowns you have on the field. So you can get quite a bit of lifesteal on her. 60% of the amount that she recovers, not of her lifesteal amount, is how much she recovers, goes to all the other unknowns. So it can actually pump out quite a bit of healing. But if you do damage on a Goddess Liz shield, you're not getting a heal, right? If you don't crit with your despair card, like you're not getting that heal and you might need it. So the big question to me is like, is it just better to use a healer that like you tappy the card and the heals come, right? There's no like, oh geez, I really hope this crits. You hit the button and you hope. That's not something you want out of a healer. Healers need to be reliable in clutch situations. Not to mention her kit. It's kind of like a damagey one, but you almost want more control off a healer. I mean, it's cool if you can get like a Merlin level damage on like a healer or something. That'd be neat. But this isn't Merlin level damage. This is like a middling damage. So I don't know. It seems like an interesting design, but they didn't go far enough. They need to make her hit harder or give her some CC, I think, to make her more useful. But yeah, I mean, I think she'll be more useful in content that's like 4v4. Because if you have 4 units in the field, she's healing more because she gets more lifesteal from her passive. She's hitting more characters, lifestealing more back, right? I feel like that's where she can potentially shine. So in like a 4v4 PvP, if that ever comes back, or even like a Guild Wars kind of environment, I think Beatrice has a place. But again, like, do you want to buy her cosmetics? Do you want to like worry about feeding dupes, that kind of thing? Probably not. Just if you need a healer, there's a lot of better ones out there. Yeah, I don't know. For her gear too, it's kind of weird because like a lot of people don't really talk about using her, so it's kind of hard to like really place what the best gear would be. But it's probably some combination of HP, defense, or lifesteal. Even really like maybe an HP lifesteal set. It's hard to say. Like the thing is with a lifesteal based healer, like you also might want to attack too because you need to attack more and lifesteal more back. So it's a complicated one. I guess the easiest way to go is probably HP defense, but it's something you might want to play with before actually committing to a set, especially if you're going to UR a set for Beatrice, which I doubt many people are anyways. Yeah, so Sandy, are you feeling the sad vibes from Beatrice, or do you think she might be somewhat useful, or she's going to sit at the bottom of your box gathering dust?
I wouldn't be sad if she doesn't even pop up in my box, to be honest. I don't know. Like, I feel like a lot of her healing is too dependent on like critting or just damage output. And, you know, after Einig and Crit Hell, I don't like units where, you know, it really depends on their crit. And I don't think that she is that useful right now. You know, I could be wrong. Maybe someone out there is going to find some ingenious way of gearing her and putting her with some units, like you said, if we go back to the 4-on-4 PvP, or maybe we'll see them in Guild Wars. But as of right now, she's pretty sad. You're right. You know, she's the Mike Wheeler of ReZero.
Yeah, well, it is what it is. She does have an interesting ultimate too. Like, it's going to top everybody up, which is something I guess I should have probably pointed out as well. It is an AoE ult, and when you do a lot of damage, you're going to lifesteal a lot of that back. You're going to give it to everybody. So her ult is likely going to top everybody up. So it's got a fairly powerful ultimate if you are planning on potentially using her. All right, well, let's roll into some PvP comp suggestions. The no-brainer one that everyone's expecting to roll out of this, and this comes with those who have spent enough to get Emilia 6/6. The most commonly expected top PvP comp to roll out of this ReZero collab is Emilia, Baby Merlin, Goddess Liz, with Ram in the back in the sub slot. Oh my gosh, does that ever seem toxic? You've got freeze, you've got big DPS out of your Merlin, you've got a revive from Goddess Liz, you got pumpkin bombs, you've got stuns from Goddess Liz, stuns from Ram in the back. You can shut everyone's healing down with Merlin's AoE. You can just sit there and install all day and annoy the hell out of someone until Emilia gets her ult, and then you press the win button and it's game over. This comp is phenomenal, and it can counter pretty much anything, like Assault Meliodas, Glue Eater. Like, you just freeze whoever you want, right? Like, you're gonna get a lot of freeze cards and stun cards if you don't have freeze cards. The only thing that kind of cucks it is as soon as Chandler comes out, it doesn't do well at all against Chandler Esterosa comps. And that's because Chandler, if you've got an Esterosa on the team, and probably a Tarmiel too, anytime any of them use stances, they can't get frozen. And this comp kind of relies a little bit on those freezes and stuns too, and stuns. So if you can't control, you're in a bit of a pickle. It makes it a little bit more difficult to come out with that W. So enjoy it while you can, whales of the world. Take those out and just stomp noobs until Chandler comes out, because then things are going to change. The other problem with this too is, like, if you come up across this team, it's like, how do you handle it, right? You've got, do you go for the Emilia first? Because, if you leave that Emilia alone too long, she's going to be a problem, and she's going to be freezing and stunning you, freezing you and doing Emilia things. But then you can't ignore the Merlin too, because if you leave Merlin alone, like, it takes a few attacks to get her down. Plus, you got the Goddess's Revive. Like, it's just like, where do you start? It's just a frustrating powerhouse composition, and you're likely going to see a lot of it if you're in a sort of higher level PvP. But you know what? My little tip would be is to inspect the Emilia to see if it's actually a high level, alt level Emilia. Because if it's not, you can probably get through with just ignoring the Emilia and just tanking the alt. Because a lot of people will probably use this comp without a properly stacked Emilia. Anyways, that's my 2 cents on that one. I don't know, Sandy, if you come across this composition in PvP, like, can you think of anything that would work well against it? Like, what would you do first turn against these guys?
Yeah, that's a hard one. Like you said, I mean, I'm definitely going to check to see if the Emilia is stacked, just like how we all check the Goddess Liz, right? Because I will alt if your Goddess Liz is not 6'6". Yeah, I'm gonna check Emilia, and if she's not 6'6", then I'm gonna go ahead and go for Baby Merlin. But if you're using like Dairy, or if Chandler, Blue Dairy, I think she's immune to stun. Even if you put the Ludo association, a Grace, on one of your characters, maybe you can negate that Goddess Liz, and just, I guess, bulldoze your way through. But I would definitely always go for Merlin first. Emilia, I think she's so new that only the whales are really going to have her 6'6", where she becomes more of a threat in the PvP world. So we'll see from there. Are you using this comp, Novage? Have you pulled her?
I kind of want to see my current team. I've been having fun with it. It'd be nice to go up against this challenge. It's my whole Blue Dairy, the one, and Green Gother with Goddess Liz in the back. But yeah, it is tough. Like Dad says, check to see if Emilia is going to be a threat. If not, you got to be careful, going after Merlin because of her passive. It's not like you could take her out with like two attacks or even an alt. So you kind of have to play your cards right, and especially with the Goddess Liz Revive, it's an interesting. Yeah, I can see why people have been using this in JT, and it's probably going to pop up in global. So yeah, maybe next week we could do a recap and seeing, how did we deal with the new ReZero collab characters in PvP. That'd be pretty interesting to see what we bring back to the table next week.
Can't fight them, join them. I think that's what I'm going to be saying. I'm hoping I get lucky enough to get Emilia up there, but yeah, that's the easiest counter to this, is just outdoing your opponent, right? Same comp, but seeing him going first. But I mean, if you don't have Emilia too, they're actually, surprisingly, who does work well in this setup is Rem, blue-haired maid. So she hits hard too. You're basically kind of turning it into like a bit of a glue eater team. You can even take out the Merlin and put in a Gother, right? You can use red or green. Red maybe to do the attack ceiling, because attack ceiling is really powerful now because you don't get the green Gother passive anyways. And if you want, you can put a tank instead of Goddess Liz, right? Like you can do Rem, green small Deanne, and like a Gother. Really works well with Ram in the back. There's a lot of different options that these kind of like unknown characters are opening up, but Rem plays a lot like the one Escanor. So you can just hit hard. You can do a little bit more like ulti control things with your AoE because you don't have to worry as much about their ults. So yeah, there's definitely, if you don't get Emilia, it's not like you can't run an unknown team, because even just ram with even Merlin in the front, right, and ram in the back, like you're making Merlin even stronger. Like take those death pierces out of the back, put ram in instead. You're gonna get more value. And like I said, as soon as he pops out or she pops out of that sub slot, the opponent won't be laughing because it's another stun on the field, right? So you got potentially two characters with stuns. There's a lot of stuff that can happen there. But I think that's generally like what we're going to see shake out. You're not going to see Beatrice at all unless people are being, I don't know what you call it, trolling, I guess. But you're probably going to see a lot of Rems, particularly in Ungeared too. I think Rem is going to really shine anytime you can get like big attack buffs like that. It's a little bit more useful. Merlin's not as big in Ungeared, but you put Ram in the back now, she does become a lot more powerful. Having that bonus attack that Ram gives as a sub-slot unit. So I think it'll be interesting to see how PvP shakes out this week, but I think that's where we're predicting. Now, the big question is always, should you pull? And it's always such a loaded question. Sandy, I guess we've kind of talked about how you're pulling, but do you have any advice for people thinking about, maybe skipping this banner? Like, is that a safe call, or do you think is it a must pull banner? Like, what are your thoughts?
I would say, and this is personally only for me, that this is a must pull banner. With the guild boss, it just gives your box more options. When we're going to encounter the new season 4 guild boss, and these are all unknown characters. So you're adding to your list of options amongst the fairies, the giants, and the unknowns. And this banner, it's a collab banner, and I really haven't seen any other collab banners come back. Whereas festival banners like Chandler, that's coming next, those characters do, relatively get added to other festival banners, but these collab banners, they don't, not since we've been playing the game. And, I don't know, maybe Netbarble's going to bring back, Kingdom Fighters or Slime, but as of now, I would say pull on it, because you're going to miss out, and you're going to be frustrated if you're in a competitive guild and you just can't match those scores. So it's good. We get one free character for free at least. I would say maybe do one rotation if you've got the gems saved up. But if not, that's just my 2 cents.
What's your strategy here, Novage, or would you recommend to everybody?
Just going off of what Sandy said, I think the key thing is first, how you as a player, how committed and competitive you are. If you are in for top guilds or top guild boss scores, or just that's something, I'm assuming those people that are aiming for that are looking at spending a little bit, in a sense, for most of the banners. So I say yes, go for pulling, because like she said, we haven't seen a collab come back. I know there was information out saying that they may redo the slime. That could be the start of a second cycle of some of these banners. That'd be nice, but I mean, that's not guaranteed. It's not really announced, so not sure if that's even valid. But yeah, a lot of characters that people missed out on, they regret it. So if you definitely are aiming, or you've been playing the game and you're going full force now, having the variety in your box for different content that comes out is always a good thing. I, for one, will be pulling. I'm probably going to do a couple of rotations to see, where I get at that. Funny story. I know last time with the last collab, we talked about, I covered Mike and I ended up getting 3 dupes of him. So I covered Beatrice today. I really hope I don't get multiple dupes of Beatrice. I prefer dupes of any of the other ones except for Beatrice. So cross my fingers.
Yeah. So I think that my advice might be like slightly different from your guys too. So my advice to anyone who is like maybe thinking about it, maybe you're free to play and you don't, you hold your gems a little close to your vest. I think it's honestly an easy skip banner. that might not be like the most popular opinion, especially with a lot of content creators. But hear me out. You get the unit that I think is the most important one to have for the future for most content, and that's the red-haired maid, because you need that collab. The unknown characters boosting unit. I think that might potentially come into play down the road. Whereas, okay, Emilia, yeah, she's great. If you wail on her, she's an amazing unit. She'll do good. Yeah, the blue-haired maid's great too. She does a lot of damage, but damage dealers, like you can have Sariel, you can have Baby Merlin, you can get by in PvP with any of those characters. It's not like you're gonna need her for any specific content, and then Beatrice is Beatrice. Like you're not gonna need her. So if you're looking at units that are like must-haves, none of these are gonna like destroy the meta. Like, you know, your Lost Female Yoda, it's like everyone needs to have a copy of them, right? Like you don't have to have a copy of any of these units. So if you're looking down the road being like, hey, well, we heard the news, you know, we got Festival Arthur, we don't know, maybe he's gonna be the new OP unit, right? Maybe I want to save for him. Maybe you want to save it for the new leaked potentially Festival Esterosa that we're hearing about too. Like those characters might be meta changing, and if you're looking at this, you've already got your solid like PvP team that you're doing well with. Maybe you like playing your like Gleater type team, right, with the one or even Lost Female Yodas. Like just keep rolling with those. You don't need these characters. There are a lot of high investment involved in them too to get the biggest value out of them. But that being said, they are great characters. So if you're the kind of people that, you know, like maybe like ReZero, maybe want to collect, yeah, sure, 600 gems, you're gonna get 100 of those back at the end of this, I guess, the event. So it's 500 gems. It's not like a ton to get, like, you know, a guaranteed unit. It's not like a festival banner where you gotta go to 900, right? My question would be like, you know, who do you pick? Like, assume you get no one getting to 500, right? You got your red-haired maid Ram for free. Do you pick Rem? Do you pick Emilia? I don't know. I guess if you're like the free-to-play type person, you go for the blue-haired maid, right? But, you know, just hopefully you'll get maybe a couple of them on the way, and you can just pick the one you missed on the rotation. Just collect them all, put them all in your box. But anyways, that's my suggestion. That's just coming from me. But everyone will, you ask 20 people, you get 20 different pieces of advice. So who really knows? All right, we'll move on to the next section, which is our featured comment of the week. Sandy, you want to tell us everybody about that?
Yeah, so every week we do a featured comment wherever you guys leave those comments for us on YouTube, Discord, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. And so this week we've got a new featured comment from, their name is Your Hearts. That's cute. And Your Hearts said, what unit would you like to see in the game that Netmarble hasn't done yet or skipped? And Your Heart said, mine is Skinny Escanor. Skinny Escanor, that's a funny one. If Netmarble is listening to our podcast, I wonder too, Your Heart's like, what would his skills be? You know, what's his bronze and his his silver and his gold? What would be his ult? He turns into Zawan? I don't know. That's pretty funny. Without spoilers, Daz, who do you want to see that Marvel hasn't done?
Yeah, okay. Like, say, saw my little note here, and this is like not really a spoiler, but I'd like to see, and let's not talk about it in too much detail because people might not have seen all the manga or seen all the anime or read the manga. Ismael, the fourth Archangel, that's talked about in the game up to this point. They mentioned the Archangel of Mael. I'd really love to see Mael. As soon as Mael comes into the game, I think that's going to be a really big banner, potentially a festival, holy war type banner, and I think that'll be a really cool thing to get into the game. But yeah, that's where my vote would be for Mael. But I don't know. Who are you thinking, Sandy?
I want to see Purgatory Bond. And speaking of Bond, like Novage, you should dress up as Purgatory Bond now because we're still waiting for that.
Eagerly.
Yes. Still work in progress. It will happen. It will be the final boss version, though, unfortunately. That's what I've been aiming for.
Cool.
Anyone you want to see? that hasn't been?
You know, the two characters you guys mentioned so far are definitely great. That'd be awesome addition to the game. Haven't seen much use of any bonds lately for a very long time, so it'd be kind of cool for seeing him in multiple different content. I guess one of the other characters, I mean, my first pick would be Bond, but my second pick would be Deanne. No festival unit, her use right now could come back with the new guild boss, but still, you know, I'm assuming there's a pattern of all the 7 deadly sins. You know, you got a festival Meliodas, you got a festival King, you got a festival Merlin, you got a festival Goddess Liz. So, I mean, at some point, I'm hoping that you're going to continue on with the 7 deadly sins, and we're going to see some interesting new kits with these characters. And like Daz was saying earlier, you know, if you're free to play, there's always down the road either now a holy war unit or a festival unit that could be changing the dynamics of either PvE meta or PvP meta. So it's, in a sense, it's good to look forward to. But I'm hoping that we see one soon. Okay.
I want to see Wild as well. So that's that. I'll end on that note.
Who's Wild? You can't just tell us who Wild. Like, say you want Wild, not explain who he is.
She's gonna spoil stuff again.
I will spoil it.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. If you search it up at your own risk, or please watch the anime or read the manga.
Fair enough. We gotta be careful when it gets to spoiler territory when Sandy's involved. Okay, well, let's get to the game segment. At the end of every episode, we always do a fun little game. This is a quick little trivia one that we're going to do. So it's really easy. I ask a bunch of questions. We're going to make them very simple. Let's make each one worth 1 mark each, so we'll kind of like track points. You don't get negative points if they're wrong. So I'll say ask the questions. Sandyy and Novage, you guys got to buzz in, and whoever buzzes in first gets the first crack at it. And we're going to re-zero theme it. So all these questions are re-zero themed. Hopefully you don't have to have watched the anime. I know both of you have a little bit. So this isn't like very spoiler heavy. If you've watched like an episode or two, or if you've played through some of the game storyline too, and currently in 7 Deadly Sins, you'll likely know most of these answers. So this is very, very spoiler light. But if you are someone who doesn't like hearing anything, just, come back to this later after watching a couple episodes or playing through the game. Okay. So starting off, we've got 9 questions. The first one, you guys ready? You ready and prepped? Who cursed Subaru? Sandy put her hand up. Oh, you can't take it down. You buzzed in. What's your answer there, Sandy?
Is it the Green Witch or the Witch?
The witch, I'll take the witch. I don't know if she's green, but she is definitely a witch. So let's put the witch in, and we won't name her just because I think, again, spoilers. Okay, so Sandy has 1 point. Next question. What is Subaru's special power called? Oh, Novage, I know you want to put that hand up. There it is. Okay, what is it, Novage?
What it's called? I would say rebirth.
No, you know what? If you just explain it, we'll give you points. How about that? And then I'll tell you what it's actually called afterwards. He does mention it quite a few times.
He's able to, basically when he dies, he wakes up the previous day, or the start of the previous day or the day he died.
Close enough. We'll give you the points, Novage. It's called Return by Death. And if you watch the anime, or I think he mentions in the game too, Return by Death is his self-named superpower. Okay, so 1 each. We're neck and neck. Next question. What is Emilia's race? Sandy, I know you know this one.
She's half elf.
That's right. Who knows what the other half is? I'm assuming human, but who knows? Half elf is what the correct answer that we were looking for was.
I'm sure Daz's son would probably know. And in the back of my mind now, I'm just imagining him answering these questions before us now.
He's screaming at the screen as we speak. Okay, next question. And I think in the anime it's called Beetlejuice, but Petaljuice is how it's spelled apparently in this game. is one of the leaders of this villainous group? What's the name of the villainous group he's one of the leaders of? This is probably one of the harder ones, but he's got a bunch of little cronies. You guys remember what those cronies are called? 3, 2, 1, out of time. No one got that one. It's called the Witches Cult. So that's the group that he's I wouldn't say like the leader of, but he's one of like the figures in. Okay, next one. What job is Emilia aspiring to? It's actually in like the title of her character name. Yes, Novage.
I haven't looked at the title in the game, but she's one selected to be the next, I guess, royalty of the kingdom.
Monarch. Yeah. So she's the royal candidate for the royal selection process. She's choosing the next king, I guess, or queen for the kingdom of Lugnesia, I think it's called. Anyways, good job, Novage. It's all tied up again at 2s. I like it when it's like neck and neck. It makes it more interesting. Next one. This one, hopefully you guys will get it. What is Beatrice's current job? Novage, by a hair.
She's in charge of looking after the library at the residence.
That's correct. Also called the Forbidden Library, but we'll take that. And that's actually in her character name as well. She's the caretaker of the Forbidden Library. Okay, 3 questions left. Novage has squeezed into the lead. What race are Ram and Rem actually in the anime or manga? Yes, Sandy.
Demon.
Yes, and no one really knows why in the game they're unknown because we know they're demons. But apparently Netmarble didn't. Okay, another easy one, hopefully. What color is Betelgeuse's hair? Uh-oh. Sandy, you look like you're not too sure about this one.
I have to remember. Is it green?
It sure is green, Sandy. It looks like you just clinched it, I believe, with that one. 2, 4. Oh, no, it's 4-3. So we've got the last one. So, Novage, you need to answer this one to tie it. Or Sandy, you can just say no ties here and get this one right. This one might be a little bit trickier. What is the subtitle for the ReZero manga or anime? It's called ReZero : something. That's the something I'm looking for, the name of the show. Okay, Sandy, you gonna take a stab at it? For the win.
Rebirth in Another World?
Oh, not quite. Novage, do you know it?
It's part of that, so it messed me up now. Life in a New World.
I'm not going to give it to either of you. It's Starting Life in Another World. It was close. You guys got the Another World part. It's just the concept of rebirth versus starting life. Same idea, I guess. But I really need to be specific on that one. That's the judge in me is finally cracking down the whip. Aye, well, Sandy, you won another one. Congratulations. And on that note, we're going to end off the show. So thank you all for joining us at the Boar Hat Tavern, a Seven Deadly Sins Grand Cross podcast. We stream the show live on our Twitch channel at twitch.tv/Boar Hat Tavern every week, usually on Monday nights at 9:30 p.m. Pacific time. However, we're doing it at 1 o'clock Pacific time on Tuesday this week for some reason. Well, we told you the reason earlier, but either way. Sandy, where can people find you and your YouTube content?
Once I get this park open, I am back to my other job on YouTube, youtube.com/Sandy with a double Y 7DS.
Yeah, and I mean, for a lot of the Guild Boss content, a lot of the old stuff is still very valid, too. It's a nice thing about these Guild Bosses coming back, and I guess maybe there's a few things that might have changed a little bit, like Assault Meliodas coming out. But for all in all, if you're looking to get high scores on Akumu, check out some of Sandy's older videos, because a lot of them can help get you those high scores. So if you'd like to get in touch with us, you can email us anytime at podcast@boarhattavern.com, or you can follow us on Instagram or Twitter at @boarhattavern. All 3 of us are members of the Global Guild Denied. It's part of the Scoundrels Alliance. If you'd like to join our ranks, you can reach out to us on Instagram, Twitter, or just send us an email. We can get in touch with you. A little shout out to one of our knighthoods in our alliance, Paladins, for making it and winning their first Guild Wars season 2. Congratulations to the boys and girls of Paladins. You can also subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, or wherever you happen to find our podcasts online or your podcasts online. You can also find our shows on our website at boarhattavern.com. Don't look at it, please. It's not great. We'd like to thank Madeline Marois for crafting our killer logo, Streetwise Rhapsody from YouTube for composing our awesome cover of the Grand Cross theme song that we use for our intro, and Andre Bobe from ArtStation for letting us use his outstanding 3D renders of the Boar Hat Tavern for our pre-live and post-video splash screens. You can find all of their work in the descriptions wherever you're listening to or watching this. Everybody, thanks for listening. Have a great week.
Bye.